So like the omega-3s and the omega-6s with grass-fed, grass-finished, they're equaled out and they're balanced. With the traditional popular feedlot model, your omega-6s, the ones that
cause
inflammation, artery problems, heart problems like that, are very high, and the omega-3s are down here. If you grass feed a cow and then take it to the feedlot to finish it for 90 days, the science, you can find solid science on this. It starts a decline curve on the benefits, and in 90 days, you've erased the benefit of the grass-fed. You're back to, you might as well have done the corn the whole way.
This is the Tom Rowland Podcast. Fascinating stories to amaze, encourage, and inspire you in fishing, fitness, and the outdoors. And we're brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. I started this podcast as a way to connect with my friends, people that I admire and respect, and you. It has been a learning journey that's made me a better person, a better fisherman, a better father, and a better athlete. I'm so happy that you're on this journey with me, and I'd love to hear from you with show suggestions, guest suggestions, or questions. The best way to get a hold of me is through text. You can text 305-930-7346 for the fastest response, but if you prefer to email, you can send that to podcast@saltwaterexperience.com. That's a dedicated email address just for the show. If you like this show, you can show your support by posting about it on social media and tagging me. Text the link to a couple of friends that may also enjoy it, and subscribe and leave a 5-star review if you feel like I've earned it. The website is tomrowlandpodcast.com, and that is where everything lives. All past shows, you can go and listen to any show. You can look up all the different shows that we've done, both the How To Tuesdays, the full links, and the Physical Fridays. They all live on tomrowlandpodcast.com. And the social media is Tom_Rowland, ROWLAND, on Instagram, or you can go to our big account, Saltwater_Experience. I hope to hear from you soon. So now, let's get on to today's show.
I'm Stan.
And I'm Eileen.
And this is the Tom Rowland Podcast.
Stan and Eileen, how are you? I'm glad to have you on the podcast.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Fantastic. Well, Stan, the last time we saw one another, we were stretching at Joe Hippensteel's seminar. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm working it hard. We're working it every morning and sometimes twice a day.
Yes.
And I've made significant improvements.
And I've had the benefit of learning from him after he's come back and been participating too. So
are you making progress too?
Yeah, actually, big time.
Fantastic. So, what was the path to finding Joe? And we talked briefly at the seminar, but what caused you to seek that out and take it to that level?
Well, we were building a house with just two of us, and it went on and on and on. So we've got to listen to Goggins. So we must have listened to his podcast 20 times a day. Just looped it.
The book and interviews he's done. Yeah.
We're setting tile for 3 or 4 weeks at a time. We're painting for 2 months at a time, and just to stay motivated. I mean, we just created an environment where it was just not appropriate to be lightweight.
Get on top of your head and do the work.
So based on his recommendation, we went looking. Plus, I want to stay active mentally and physically as long as possible. So you got to be proactive with that, with how you take care of yourself, from managing your head to what you eat.
Yeah, there's so many athletes out there in the world that are demonstrating the longevity is done through flexibility, having supple muscles, and so we're just show us how, and we'll pick it up from there.
That's fantastic. It's been really great for me as well. And, I was kind of getting along, training hard and working hard. But as I got a little bit older, it kind of caught up, and I couldn't do a lot of the things that I was doing before. And that's how I and just like you, I was listening to David Goggins' book, and he was talking about how he's now doing all this stretching and it saved his life. And I was like, well, Maybe I should check that out. And that's exactly how I found Joe too. So good. That's great. So tell me what you guys, tell me about your ranch and what you do.
Well, we produce healthy proteins for people that want to eat well. We are heavily involved in regenerative ag, so we're continually enhancing the quality of the property.
Yeah, our farm is Ramstead Ranch, and we're on 240 acres in the far northeast corner of Washington State.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as ranches around you, is 240 acres? Where does that sit? Is that large, medium, small?
We're in an area with a lot of federal ground, so there's not a lot of private ground. So we would be on the large size.
Okay.
The next size up are like the fourth and fifth generation people that have collected up pieces for a long time. The next leap up is big, and the next leap down is small.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you mentioned the
10-acre pieces.
You mentioned the term regenerative. Can you explain that and what that means exactly?
Well, that all really starts with the microbial health of the soil, and that's you figuring out how to support that. So the microbes mine nutrients, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals from the soil. They trade it to the plants for sugars for their communities. Then that puts those nutrients in a bioavailable form for the animal to consume, and that puts it in a form that is good for us.
Mm-hmm. And we like the word regenerative because it's kind of in contrast to not only conventional ag, which is how most of our foods are raised in the US, but also even different than sustainable agriculture, because just the word sustainable means we can keep doing it the same way over time. But we see regenerative ag as the next step where we can actually make the ground healthier, the animals healthier over time. Agriculture does not have to be a take sort of endeavor. The natural movement, the natural tendencies of the animals can actually help to make the soil better, help to make the air cleaner, and keep the rivers and streams clean as well. So it gets better over time, not just sustain. Yeah,
that's interesting. So can we talk about how you do that specifically, like how you get to the regenerative from the sustainable or commercial, and contrast them? What's the difference about all of them?
A broad brush answer would be we basically emulate how nature was doing it before man got here. Like when the buffalo and even elk on the plains were roaming through, they eat, tromp, leave a lot of nutrients, and then they're gone, and the ground rests for a long period of time.
And that's a natural cycle because of seasons, but also because of predators that were naturally pushing those herds across. So herds they were never stationary and stagnant in one area. They would come into an area, they would graze, and then something would move them on and they would have to migrate elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. So we emulate that with, we use portable electric fence, but we have small cells that we put the cattle in, and they move every day. Mm-hmm. So, and even sometimes in the spring when the grass is growing fast, but it's still pretty watery and doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it yet, we might move them twice a day. Mm-hmm. But we stay ahead of it so that we're harvesting the biomass and yet leaving usually at least half untouched, not untouched because they tromp it and all that. It looks a little rough when we leave, but within a few days, it's standing back up and looking good. So we move every day so that they're always on fresh pasture, and we plant diversified pastures instead of a monocrop. So we plant 10 or 12 varieties of seeds, grasses, and maybe 15, 18% legumes, a variety of clovers. So we have some broadleaf stuff, and we try to time that so that we have species of plants that like the early cool weather, stuff that likes the dry weather, stuff that likes the rainy part, stuff that likes even the heat, the real heat of the summer. And we don't get a lot of that, but we might get a couple of weeks that are 95 to 100. And then stuff that likes it on in the fall. So the theory is that at any time a cow takes a bite, we have 2 or 3 species in their prime. So we keep that nutrition in front of them all the time.
With the movement as well, we're moving them onto new pasture, but more importantly, to help the regenerative cycle happen, is we're letting that pasture and that ground rest after we move. So like Stan's saying, there's always going to be some plant that's active in the photosynthesis process where it's growing and it's not dormant. And so by moving the animals off that pasture and preventing them from going back and regrazing, that plant has the opportunity to grow leaves again, start collecting more of the sunlight, and then transferring that nutrition down to the soil where a healthy community of microbes are there to receive the nutrition and then actually transfer an exchange of nutrition back up to the plant. And so it's a total symbiotic relationship that happens best when that ground can rest and regrow and not come back and be regrazed by the animals until we bring them back. And that's usually anywhere from a 45 to a 60-day cycle.
So if they come back at all, a lot of it we don't even come back to. We've got an excess of grass. We basically are doubling our carrying capacity. We do a lot of soil testing and all that, so we have the science behind it, but we also just have common sense proof that we're doubling our carrying capacity about every 4 years. So
that means the number of animals that can graze the same amount of ground increases over time, which says there's more lush pasture, there's more health, there's more nutrition here that can support more life. And
you say you're doubling that every so often?
Yeah, about every 4 years. And that'll probably get harder to do every 4 years as the ground gets healthier and healthier. It's like a GPA in college. It's harder to affect as
you get better.
Yeah. It's like the stretching too. At first you can make huge progress, and then you get to a point where it's like now it's like incremental, tiny little bit of progress. So how long have you been doing this?
We bought this place in 2008. So
2008.
we've really, but we all had other commitments, other careers. So, and it took probably, we were kind of weekend warriors at first. And
we didn't even have complete fences when we started. So it took some,
did you have this
pre-work?
Did you have this vision? Like what was the property being used for before? Like this type of farming, and then you had a vision to take it to this level, or what, when you first kind of stepped foot on this property, what was the condition of it and what did you think you would do with it?
It was kind of the product of traditional ag, the monocrop, depleted soils, which resulted in a lot of weeds, a lot of undesirable species here. And it just generally was neglected and depleted, like a lot of the farms in America. But we did have the vision. We knew what we wanted to do, and we just started. We
were committed to the regenerative ag. We were committed to producing grass-fed, grass-finished beef and lamb. And so that was always part of the goal. It was just, how do we get there and what's it going to take?
How did you even know? I mean, you say you had different careers and all this other stuff. I mean, who's the farmer? Like, how did you even know, like, this is the direction that we need to go in and this is the vision and this is how it should be done, but it's not being done that way right now?
Well, we learned a lot. We were gardening vegetables on our own, producing healthy, delicious garden vegetables. And we started learning from people like Joel Salatin and reading books like Omnivore's Dilemma and, those kinds of Food Inc. Started educating ourselves that way and really felt like this is the right thing. This is what is good for our bodies. It's what's good for the land. It's what's good for the animals. And so we just started small. We actually started on a 2-acre, mixed residential plot and tore up lawn and planted some pasture and started rotating chickens and literally grew from there. So it was
when you were
really
doing that on that really small scale and you're rotating the chickens, what else were you growing there?
Well, we had a number of nice garden boxes. We were big on the garden box thing and really producing some nice fruits and vegetables. We had quite a few fruit trees. Usually anytime we come upon a property, we start planting fruit trees, and I mean, we just can't seem to help ourselves. So we start trying to enhance it plant-wise. And then we were at the farm store and they were selling chickens. So we decided we'd do that. And per our style, kind of big way, we bought 50 chickens. And then we had 5 sheep.
Yep.
So we were growing fruit, vegetables, our chickens, and our sheep for our own consumption.
And I think when we pretty much maxed it out when we added the 30 turkeys, and that was like we couldn't have done another season at that, but we left it gorgeous. It was well fertilized and ready for a family with that. I believe they had about five kids, homeschooled. The place was their learning center, and it was a perfect match for the next family that moved right in, who actually we found out later actually added 2 steers to the property. So
really, wow,
yeah, it was just awesome.
So you go from that, and that's kind of, I mean, from what I may be incorrect here, but it sounds kind of like that was like a hobby, a passion project, kind of to do that, and there was no money coming from that. You weren't able to sell that commercially, and this was all for your own use. You could sell it commercially.
Oh, yes, very small scale.
We sold a few chickens, and we had a little refrigerator sitting out there with an on your on or pick up your eggs.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Nothing.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so, but you saw that there was enough interest in what you were doing, and you had enough passion and determination that you wanted to move to a bigger place, and that's how you found the 240 acres that you're on today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we'd been looking for a ranch. We'd had the dream for a while, and we had a whole list of criteria, water, trees, hay ground, like that kind of thing. And we looked at quite a few places, and then just kind of stumbled across this one and thought, this fits the list. Let's do it.
Wow.
So we just stepped out and started.
And so
it took us a couple of years to kind of wrap up all the commitments we had business-wise, and I was the first one up here. I was here for a year by myself, and Eileen was the second one. And anyway,
and so everybody basically quit's not the best word, but you move into this new career.
Yeah,
maybe it is. Maybe quit is a good word.
Well,
I don't know. What were you doing before?
It's definitely a transition because Stan's from a construction background, and there's plenty of construction that happens on the ranch, and that's a perfect skill set to apply here. Jean's had a medical career, and that doesn't end. I mean, a lot of her inspiration for wanting to get this going comes from watching her patients come in over the years as the decades progressed, coming in sicker and sicker, fatter and fatter, and just having these chronic problems that stem from poor diet and stem from, the standard American diet. So that doesn't end. She's still applying medical expertise and communication with people that we meet that are trying to find healthier ways to put food on their table.
Yeah, that's super cool. I really want to talk to you about that, because this, there's the standard American diet, and some of that is processed food and but what we're talking about here is a better way to raise the protein, for the most part, the chickens, the turkeys, the lamb, the beef, right? And so I'd like to know, like, what your opinion is and how what you've seen as far as how eating animals that are raised the way that you're raising them versus raised in a more commercial monocrop kind of thing, grain-fed beef, what differences you've seen and what differences about for the health of the animal and for the health of the people that are eating the animal.
The most simple way to summarize the difference is animals that are grass-fed and or pasture raised, and we can talk about those nuances, but animals that are raised the way we raise our animals are basically themselves experiencing less inflammation. The diets they eat are harmonious to their digestive tracts, so they experience less inflammation, and everything that they impart to our diet also reduces the inflammation that our bodies experience as well. And so the number one ingredient, so to speak, in that is the types of fats that they're carrying in their meat and in their tissue. So we're talking about the omega-6 and omega-3 ratios. Those are kind of like the main two fats that we talk about in the US that are, if you're eating conventionally raised, commercially raised beef, it's grain-fed, grain-finished. So they eat grass when the cattle are young, but they wind up at a feedlot, and then they're eating grain-based diets that are basically not what their digestive tracts were evolved to eat over time, right? They're herbivores. They should be eating they're
Right.
designed to eat grass. They've got their 4 compartments of their stomach, and that rumen is designed to break down that cellulose and extract the nutrition from that. And so that's what we want to see is grass fed, grass finished with our ruminants. So those are the beef and those are the lambs.
Now, when I've asked a lot of people about grass fed and grass fed, grain finished, grass fed, grass finished, I'd really like to talk about the difference there, because I've been told by farmers that it's really, really difficult to do grass fed, grass finished. That's what you're doing. So I'd like to know, like, what are the challenges with that? I guess it's just way easier. Like, they're out, they're eating grass, and then you're going to have a period before you're going to take them to market. You're going to fatten them up. You're going to feed them grain. I don't know what the antibiotics and everything else that goes into it, but it could still be called grass-fed beef. I guess. I mean, those are the things that I'd really like to know, because there are so many terms out there. And I was talking with my workout guys this morning, and I was like, does anybody know what the difference between organic, grass-fed, grass-finished, grain-fed, if there's no label on it, healthy, I don't know what all the labels are and what they mean, antibiotic-free. You see all of these different labels, and we're all trying to eat as healthy as we possibly can. I don't know what goes into qualifying for those labels and what I should really be looking for. I mean, I feel like grass-fed, grass-finished is the best. But honestly, if somebody really put me on the spot and said why, I would say because that's what they're supposed to eat. But I don't know. I mean, I really don't know.
Well, there's some solid science out there that can help you. So it is more expensive to do grass-fed, grass-finished.
Mm-hmm.
A beef takes us 26 to 28, 29 months to finish with grass-fed, grass-finished. Feedlot, and they'll finish somewhere around 1,250 to 1,300 pounds.
Okay.
A feedlot guys can finish cows in 16, 17 months, and they'll finish them at over 1,600 pounds.
Wow.
So economically, we cannot compete with that. We've got another year's worth of labor in there. And they've got a lot more pounds to divide their fixed costs over, that kind of thing.
Yep, understood.
So we cannot compete economically.
When you hear farmers saying that it's hard to do grass-finished beef, we would agree, by and large, when you're dealing with most cattle in America, they're not designed, they're not genetically predisposed to be quality grass-finished beef. They have a frame and a size that fits the feedlot model, where they're going to gain weight on those high-calorie grain-based diets much faster than much faster versus a grass-fed diet. They may never finish. They're going to be too tall and lean, and they've got a big frame that they've got to support with the calories that they're putting in their body, and they won't put weight on well because of their size.
Yeah, it's estimated there's 3 to 5% of the cows in the country that are good candidates for grass-fed, grass-finished.
Now,
And
is that a
like
different
Eileen,
species or they're just different frame, or what is it that makes it that way?
It is a different frame.
Yeah, there's definitely some breeds that lend themselves better. But in general, we're more interested in sort of the phenotype, like what size and shape is the animal. And you can think of it as, if you think about a center position basketball player, they're tall, they're lanky, they got long bones, and they got high metabolisms. And so that's a little more body type that's going to be more of a feedlot style, where they're taller, they've got a big frame that you can hang cheap calories on, versus what we want is a squattier, shorter, more efficient steer that when they eat that grass, more of those calories are going to contribute to delicious meat on their carcass rather than just the maintenance of the body alone.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, understood so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, a feedlot cow is going to be taller and lankier. Eileen alluded to it, but we can walk through a herd and tell you if a cow will finish or not, if we could finish it with grass-fed, just by looking at it.
And by finish, we mean nice and fleshy. They got fat on their frame too, because we want fat, right? It's delicious. It's contributes to the flavor. And in our case, with grass-fed, grass-finished, that's where a lot of the extra vitamins and nutrition and the benefits from grass-fed, grass-finished come from.
Okay.
So like the omega-3s and the omega-6s with grass-fed, grass-finished, they're equaled out and they're balanced. With the traditional popular feedlot model, your omega-6s, the ones that
cause
inflammation, artery problems, heart problems like that, are very high, and the omega-3s are down here. If you grass feed a cow and then take it to the feedlot to finish it for 90 days, the science, you can find solid science on this. It starts a decline curve on the benefits, and in 90 days, you've erased the benefit of the grass-fed. Yeah. You're back to, you might as well have done the corn the whole way.
Huh.
And that's part of what differentiates when you're asking about what's the difference between grass-fed, grass-finished. That's the difference. It's those final 90 days. If those cows aren't eating fresh living grasses in the pasture, like that decline is happening.
Wow.
And it's as well harder because we're seasonal. We are active when the grasses are growing. A feedlot can finish cows any month of the year they want.
Right. So it's almost like a hunting season where that's when you harvest the animal. And so what is your season? Like what's the harvest time? Is that fall early winter, or when is it that you actually
start May? We'll start pigs in April, but they don't need the lush grass. They eat all kinds of stuff. But our grass will be here like the first or second week of May, and that's when we get on it with the cows, and then we're good through mid-November, late November if we have to be. And then we set our, all our finances are on the calendar year like everybody, but our production year is like May to May. So we have to carry 4 or 5 months inventory until we start getting our processed animals back again. So we have to straddle that hard winter time with inventory.
Yeah, but you're spot on. It's hunting season when the grasses are growing and pastures are at their peak of nutrition. So we're putting the peak nutrition in the meat in the package.
And that's when you're finishing them right there. But are you also starting new animals right there for the next herd?
They'll start throughout the year. That varies because any individual animal might take a little bit longer to finish, and so you just kind of not learn as you go, but you choose as they grow which animals are gaining weight, which are obviously going to be good candidates to grass fed to finish on grass.
Do you think that that conventional agriculture sees this type of farm as a major competitor, or are you not even on the radar for?
I don't think we're even on the radar. I mean, a feedlot can handle hundreds of thousands of animals. So what we're doing is not really even on the radar for those guys. They're huge.
And then,
but the marketing is on their radar, which is why you see things like grass fed right on the label, because there's really, when it comes to the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, there's no standard for grass fed.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. Exactly that.
To put it on the label that's as opposed to organic. Now there is an organic standard, and there's rules that you have to follow. You have to apply. You have to get audited. You have to prove that you are operating by those organic standards. But when it comes to grass fed, there's no standards.
What about grass finished?
And then grass finished that's like even more fringy because, that hasn't hit the marketing scene quite so hard. We have customers who know the difference, and they'll come to like our table at the farmer's market, for example, and they'll go, "We see you're grass fed. Are you grass finished?" And it's like, well, obviously they're doing their own research, and they can come to us directly and sort of self-certify. They can come to our ranch and see what you say you're doing is what you're doing with your animals, and then they're happy to know the difference.
Yeah.
But they've come to realize just because it says grass fed on the package doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Most cows in America have eaten grass at some point in their life.
Well, the first time that I think I heard about this, I think it might have been in Michael Pollan's book, The Omnivore's Dilemma. And that's the first time I heard about Joel Salatin. And then I listened to him on Joe Rogan, and he's just a really fascinating guy. Doing the same thing that you're doing. It's fascinating to me. But I believe they were talking about chickens, and they were talking about, you could say this is a free range chicken if they have access to a door. They don't even have to go out of it ever. They maybe
and they wouldn't dare. The light would terrify them. They're never going to leave that building because it's.
But there's just a hole there's a hole in the building, and so that is access to outside. They may never use it, but you could call that a free range chicken, right? I mean, I don't know. The all of the terms are so confusing to me, and I'm thinking, I read books, I watch these movies, I am paying very close attention to what I eat, I track all my food, and if I can't figure this out, this has got to be incredibly confusing, or maybe most people just don't care. But, when you go to a Costco or something, if you were to see a label that said grass-fed beef, it means almost nothing. Right? Is right. Like what you're saying is that could mean that at some point in that animal's life, it ate some hay.
Yeah.
Right. And then the difference in the way that, that you're raising, cattle specifically, you were saying that there's no possible way that you can compete with the feedlot. So your meat is going to be more expensive. Let's talk about, other than just the omega-6 and omega-3, are there other benefits where just a standard consumer would say, okay, that's why I'm paying more for that grass-fed, grass-finished? And it could be even just animal welfare. A lot of people, are borderline, like, I don't know if I want to eat animals at all because I don't want to hurt them. And, but I want to, if I'm going to eat the ones that have been treated the best. I don't know. For me, I just want the healthiest meat, right? And that's why I also hunt elk. Like I love in my opinion, that is the healthiest meat, and fish that we catch in the ocean. And those are the healthiest things that I eat. And so let's talk about just like what the benefits are and why somebody would justify paying so much more outside of what we've already talked about with the omega-6 and 3. I understand that. And that's really important.
Okay, so we've got the better nutrition, which we've talked about. We have the animal welfare. We're dedicated to the animals never having a bad day here. So, for instance, when we move,
just one bad day, right?
Well, one bad day, and that's the only part I don't like about my job. That's hard to do.
Yeah,
but it's got to happen. And if I could eliminate that day, I would totally love my job. So, it's just that one day that's tough. But for instance, we'll move 70, 80, 90 cows. We walk out there and call them, and they come trot. They'll come. Our cows come better than most people's dogs. Well, they're treated right, or they wouldn't do that.
Well, what is it? Is it hay that they're coming to? Like you've conditioned them to come to you because they're getting hay, or they're getting fresh pasture, or what is it that is the draw?
They're moving to a new pasture.
Okay. Yeah. And you don't have to have cowboys out there or four-wheelers or horses or one cowboy.
One person.
Okay.
And they can be in ditch boots on foot, and it's just a...
Yeah, and that person's in front of them, not behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the cows know, man, when they open that gate, like the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Yeah. That's where that came from, I guess. The cows are over there like, I'd really like to get over there. And then you open the gate, and there you go. Fresh food. Okay, that's super cool.
They're drinking water that's spring fed, so they're drinking as pure water as you can get. It's right out of the ground. We have the regenerative aspects of how the earth's treated, the ecosystem.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sort the math out on if we're carbon neutral or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because we do have to use diesel trucks to move trailers and stuff, but I'm not sure, but we're sequester a lot of carbon. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to figure out where we stand on that mathematically. We haven't got that sorted yet, but I know we're close to carbon neutral. The water that leaves here is as clean as when it gets here. Mm-hmm. We have no hormones, antibiotics, steroids, weed killer, synthetic fertilizer. There's nothing introduced that's not provided by nature here.
Wow,
that's
incredible.
And when it comes to humane treatment, one thing we offer cows is a natural habitat. So when it's 100 degrees out, they're out grazing on grass that's cooling the ground. So they're not on on dirt. They're not on, a packed environment in a feedlot scenario out exposed in the sunshine, and they have trees to go to for shade. So in times of drought, we've seen some pretty significant droughts in the last couple of years out here in the West, and where weight gain for us for cattle is it demonstrates that the cattle are happy, they're getting plenty to eat, and that they're in a good, healthy state. So when we're gaining weight throughout the drought periods, you can contrast that to the feedlots they're having just death loss from exposure. Wow. Cows are getting overheated and suffering in the heat. So there's a significant difference there.
Wow.
Neighbors, and we went through a drought a couple years ago, and it was like, all right, we're going to look at this like this is great. We get to stress test our systems. So while neighbors in most of the states destocking, getting rid of animals, they're losing weight, so their investments going downhill. We gained weight all the way through. You could go out and part the broaderleaf stuff like the clovers, take the ground temperature, and we're 20 degrees below ambient temperature, wow. which is healthy on the plants. It's healthy on the microbes. It's cooler for the cows, even when they're out there. But we always make sure they have access to lots of trees when it gets hot, and they'll go over there and hang out in the heat of the day, and then wander back out and eat some more, and then they'll wander back.
Graze when it's cooler.
Now, the reason let's talk about the antibiotics and that. How do you manage to not use antibiotics? The cows never get sick when they're on a regular diet and they have water and food and places to walk around, or because that's an elk doesn't need antibiotics, right? There are lots of wild animals that don't need antibiotics, and it seems to me that if you put a cow in that situation and give it everything that you're giving it, that it should be healthy. But I'm interested in the hormones and antibiotics and why they're used in conventional and how you don't use them.
So one thing to understand about conventional antibiotic use is that it's a subtherapeutic level. So it's not meant to control disease. It's meant for causing the animals to gain weight. So weight gain is a byproduct of antibiotic use. And there's a great book. Sound like you like to read.
Yeah, I do.
David Montgomery and his wife Ann Bickley write books about soil and microbes and our human health relationship to the foods we eat. One of those books is The Hidden Half of Nature. It's fantastic. And they really do a good job of kind of highlighting the transition of how antibiotic use got started in raising proteins, animals in the industrial agriculture system. So it started with weight gain and causing animals to gain weight faster. And then it evolved into, well, now we can pack animals in closer together. And that subtherapeutic level helps keep some of those illnesses at bay. And so it spiraled from there. But first and foremost, it was to help gain weight faster, which makes meat cheaper, et cetera,
right.
makes profits higher, et cetera.
What about the hormones? Same
hormones
thing?
As well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And exactly. And then there's other reasons to do that in other industries, dairy and whatnot. So, and that's not our industry so much, but the hormone replacement and supplements are part of that same goal as well.
Wow. That's so cool. So on this 240 acres that you have, what animals do you keep there? Do you have the turkeys and the chickens and everything else? Or we've been mostly talking about beef, but I know you have lamb. What else do you have?
Beef and pigs are primarily our two main animals that we raise now. We started with the whole Joel Salatin model where we did meat chickens, we did layer chickens, we had turkeys, we did ducks for several seasons, and we had a big flock of sheep as well. But as we've grown, we've realized we really can do a better job of doing the regenerative ag and focusing on the pasture health if we can focus on fewer things.
So how did you come to that realization or conclusion that you'd be better off with
20-hour days, 7 days a week?
Good old-fashioned overcommitment.
We're hard workers, and it's just we going everything in kind of a big way.
Yeah.
And it just got where we can't do this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Nobody here can take a day off. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
We can't miss a lick around here. We got to do something different. So we found partner producers, we call them, that do things just like we do them. They're to our specs. They're heavily vetted. And we have a great family, mother-daughter that raises our sheep. And we have a chicken wrangler. He titles himself Chief Chicken Wrangler, but we've got a guy that does nothing but chickens.
Yeah.
And he does our chickens for us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does he move them like Joel Salatin? I mean, that's what catches a lot of people's eye. About his story is the eggmobile, and he had that. The idea was that he would move those, and then that would set up the pasture land for everything else to come, and they were kind of the first. And I don't know, when I read that, it was the eggmobile was a big part of it, right? Of that
Absolutely.
story.
And
we did that for years.
Yeah.
And it was hard to give up because it made such a contribution to the health of the ground. Mm-hmm. You can see stripes where we've been for 4 or 5 years after we've moved to a whole nother area.
Where the chicken tractors have gone down the pasture. It's like, they're just these beautiful green streaks the next year because they're just so rich and healthy.
And so you still have chickens, but you don't have to manage them yourself. Is that what you're saying?
We still sell the 5 proteins, mm-hmm. beef, lamb, pork, chicken, turkey, but we have found partner producers to take on a couple of those proteins for mm-hmm. us to produce them. We just can't do it all.
And it's a nice partnership because these are folks who don't want to do the marketing, who don't want to have to deal with the website and the going to farmers markets and things like that. They just want to raise animals and see their land improve and like that. So it's a nice partnership that way.
And so do you like the marketing
in this industry that are, I'm sorry?
Go ahead. There's a lot of people in this industry. What?
That really don't like the sales part of it. Mm-hmm. They love what they do. They love their animals. They're proud of them, but they don't want to have to try to sell them.
Right. And so what about that? That was my next question. Does that come easy to someone on your team or someone in your family? Does somebody like the marketing? Is it one of you?
That's probably really my wheelhouse where I just get so energized by people who are looking for, like, I just want to buy healthy. I just want to buy real food. And I love making that connection, and I can talk someone's ear off, whatever aspect, whether it's how do I cook this? How do, we have so many customers who have been vegetarian or have been trying to avoid the system, but they understand, they're realizing that, really my body is the type that needs meat. I need to put meat protein back in my diet. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it with animals that are being treated kindly. It's not by systems that aren't ruining the ecosystem, that are contributing to the health, of the whole system. And so they find us, and it's a wonderful connection. It's for all the right reasons.
How do you think most people find you? Is it kind of regional or worldwide, or how do you think most people are finding you?
I think most people are out there. Most people who find us are proactively searching. They're aware. They've opted out of the conventional system and want to find an alternative, and so they're motivated. And they've read the books. They know. Yeah. They've often heard of Joel Salatin and have been exposed to Michael Pollan and that sort of thing. So it's really nice that there's so many quality resources out there to really help give people the background to say, there's a big difference. Just because it's organic doesn't mean the animals are living any better.
Right. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's better for you.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's my concern is, like, I don't mind paying more, but I want to know that what I'm paying for is worth it, and that I'm, that's even something I should be looking for, like grass-fed or organic. Are those even labels that I should be searching for or not?
Right. That's really why we've chosen to put our efforts into showing people through video, through social media, sharing our farm that way, because the people that know the difference know that there's plenty of greenwashing that happens on the grocery store shelves what we really need to do is see, if we can't visit the farm, we need to see that this is how they're living, this is how the animals are living, and this is what's actually happening on the ground level at the ranch. So
put out your social media handles and your YouTube. Is it on YouTube? Is that where you're putting your videos?
We have videos on YouTube, and it's just Ramstead Ranch. So it's Ramstead like homestead, but it's Ramstead, Ramstead Ranch. We're on YouTube, we're Ramstead Ranch on Instagram, and we're Ramstead Ranch on Facebook as well. And
Right.
and our website is just ramsteadranch.com.
And what have their videos been really popular? Have you had one that really takes off?
Oh, I would say we're not, we haven't gone viral by any means. We're pretty humble when it comes to our video endeavors, but I would say most of the ones that are like, there's a virtual farm tour. There's us moving cows. You can watch us calling the cows and running with the cow herd on a long move one day. Yeah. It wasn't just pasture to pasture, but it was like, we got to go around the pasture, around the corner. And it was just me jogging with the cows and the horses, and they just trust us. So that's a kind of a funny one.
What about
we could use help there. We just keep trying to learn the next step.
Yeah.
Keep trying to.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're pretty busy. I mean, most farmers are busy. Like it's a very intense life. Like on the one hand, it sounds so nice that you walk out there and you call the cows and they come to you. But the thing is you got to do that from before sun up to after sundown, and then you got to worry about all kinds of things like predators and everything else. And I don't know. It seems like a very, very intensive, labor intensive life, but it's one that, that you love, and that's awesome. Mm-hmm. And it's you're doing some really cool stuff. What about the one bad day that we talked about? And what does the slaughter look like and the packaging? And do you do that yourself, or does that go to somewhere else, or how does that work?
No, everything we do has to be USDA inspected. So we have to use USDA plants. So we vet the plants very well. We go watch how they do it, watch how they handle animals. It's very important to us that they're not stressed any more than, they're going to be a little stressed just because it's a new environment. They're mm-hmm. encountering something new that they never have. But we vet the place as well. And then we take them usually the day before. So they move, they calm down, they get they just get to hang out and relax and calm down. And then there's a USDA inspector there at the moment of harvest that with some very specific criteria. If anything inhumane happens or ineffective, they get written up. They're very strict on it, and they inspect it. I've stood there and watched them, and they'll find a small speck of something on that whole carcass, and they'll point to it, and somebody's got to do something about that. So they're diligent with this.
We're very fortunate to have local family-run USDA plants. And so these are not big factory operations that are thousands of head a day. They're doing hand butchering, hand cut and wrap. They're using machinery, but it's all very hands-on and small scale, really quality. And we feel really lucky in that way, because that's definitely a hurdle for many farms and ranches.
Yeah. Well, one of the things too that's interesting to talk about is how your product is packaged. And I'm assuming that you can ship anywhere. Do you ship mm-hmm. all over the place, and you have customers nationwide?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So, and then how do you package your meat?
In terms of like the beef,
like vacuum sealed packages, mm-hmm. like in a certain poundage, or like, I don't know. That's a kind of a big deal for me, because like the way that I will do my fish when we catch a lot of fish, I like to eat fish. My wife kind of likes to eat fish. So if you put 2 giant fillets in a vacuum seal, that's not the best for me. Like I like to take more time and have smaller packages, so that I can pick one fillet and that's fine, or I can pick one steak, or, I don't have to thaw out 10 pounds of hamburger. I could have it in, in smaller increments, which makes it more convenient for my family, because we don't always eat the same thing. I might eat fish, they might eat chicken, something like that. And so if I package my own fish in these big things, which is way easier to do, when it comes time to eat it, it's like, now I got 2 giant mutton snapper fillets here and I'm only going to eat one. And so now I guess we're having fish tomorrow night too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm just kind of wondering how you package and if the customer has a choice on that or what the best way to do it is.
Everything's fairly standardized, but they are convenient sizes. So what ground beef is 1 pound packages. Okay. Similarly, ground pork is 1 pound. Chicken breasts are 2 breasts per package. So they're smaller portions, just like that. We do have 2 steaks per package, I think is our limit size wise. And then with beef, it's beef, lamb, and chicken is all cryovac wrapped. Our pork is paper wrapped, but it's well paper wrapped. And again, just by quality, like a family run business that does a great job.
Mm-hmm. But the cryovac wrap, that's like a vacuum seal, heavy
it's a vacuum seal
bag.
good thick plastic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what.
Yeah, it's nice packaging. The exception to that would be that if you buy a whole animal,
custom,
you could do your own cut instructions any way you want to do it.
Right.
What about that? I've done that before, where I've bought a whole cow or a half a cow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what I found is there were a lot of things in there that I didn't quite know what to do with. Beef stew meat and what was the one that I got? I just got a ton of it. It was some cut cube steak. I didn't really know what to do with it. Right. Like I'd never bought that before. And so I kind of got to the place where I was like, I really like ribeyes and fillets and flank steaks. And I think I'm just going to buy those cuts. I don't know, but would you say that there's a big benefit to buying a half animal or a whole animal versus just the cuts?
There's 2 ways to look at it. And you bring up a really great point, is that you know that you have a preference. And so we have found that over time, and especially as our customer base has expanded, folks that want to buy in bulk, but they want to know what they're getting in advance and they don't want to have to make a bunch of decisions. So we've come up with some standardized half beef, quarter beef, or eighth beef packages, so that there's a list and you can go, oh yeah, all 8 of those steaks are on my list, and we can definitely use the ground beef, and you can say yes to that and know what you're getting in advance. You know what the price is going to be, and you know the exact amount of weight that you're going to receive. And that just takes all the guesswork out. There's also the type of customer that is, they want to have that control, and they want to say, I want a standing rib roast. I don't want steaks. I want to do that prime rib. Mm-hmm. That's who the custom cut and wrap is for. And they want to have more roasts instead of more steaks, or they want that control. So that custom cut and wrap option is great for them. So we definitely try to put products out there and have it bundled in ways that meet the needs of our customers. And so whether you want that control, or whether you want just like, give me that quarter beef, that's something I can easily check yes to. We have both of those options.
And then are you shipping all that out from your own facility, or does that live somewhere else while you?
Everything's here, so we're able to assemble a la carte. If all you want to try is a pound of ground beef, some chicken breasts, and some pork chops, we'll assemble that here and send it to you.
Wow, that's got to be a pretty big refrigerator. What does that look like? Is that one giant freezer room, or is it a whole bunch of freezers, or what do you have?
We've lovingly named it the Whale.
The Whale.
Yeah.
It's pretty big, but we've got a variety. We've got 3 walk-ins. One's the Whale. Mm-hmm. One's the polar bear. One's Old Faithful. So they're dear to us. We name them.
Yeah.
And then we have a bunch of uprights and all this that for organizational purposes, for order pulling and stuff like that. Yeah. So we've got everything from our pallets that come back.
So do people come out there and check out the farm? Like you mentioned that you had that happen, but do you have farm tours and things like that you do, or is that popular?
Absolutely.
We do. We were doing a lot of it before COVID. We were given regenerative ag classes. We had lambing class, sheep class, shearing day. We had all kinds of functions. And of course, everything stopped. And we're really just getting back into that. Yeah. We're starting to do quite a bit with the schools. and get field trips out here to connect the children with an understanding of what's going on. So yeah, we love to teach, and transparency's one of our biggest offerings to combat the confusion of the marketing world, which
Right.
is
it's incredibly confusing. It really is.
It's designed to be.
It's designed to be.
Well, that's
I'm
not by
hesitant to say
accident.
it's intentionally misused and made confusing.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if people want grass fed and they're willing to pay more for it, and all you have to do is feed them a little bit of grass, and you can call your beef grass fed and sell it for a higher price, then obviously people are going to do that. I mean, why wouldn't someone do that? It's like, all we got to do is feed them a little grass and we get an extra pound. I mean, we get an extra $1 a pound or something like that. And that just seems, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, it sounds like it's some good big conspiracy theory. It's like, no, that seems like pretty good business. Like, you just make it qualify whatever label that you can. And then there are people like you that actually have this premium product, and you are abiding by all the, the rules and regulations, and you're over and above whatever the label is. Like, there's not even a label for what you're doing, right? Otherwise,
no, we're beyond any of the requirements.
Right. That's super interesting. So about the, if you talk about sustainability and there's a lot of people that maybe they are vegans, or they kind of lean in that direction because they just say, well, there's just no way that we can ever, grow enough beef or chicken or pork or whatever in a way that you're doing it. There's just not enough land. There's not enough people that want to do that. So I'm going to just go all vegan, and we should just all go vegan, and we should all have this factory produced meat and all these things. And you hear that argument out there. And I just wonder, like, what do you think the potential of the type of farming that you do for a lot of people? Like, obviously it's very popular for the people like me that are looking for something really, the highest quality food that you can possibly buy. But can we feed the nation in like this? Or, I mean, that's the big question that I always hear, is like, it's just, you just can't do it. But I don't know. I've never talked to someone that's actually doing it to see if that's a possibility.
Well, we're sustaining more animals here than any traditional model can. So I can speak to that. And the guys on the real cutting edge of this regenerative ag, like the big university guys and that really have a lot of science, claim that we can do everything we're doing with much less land than we're using if everybody would commit to this.
Mm-hmm. It's as much a challenge of decentralizing the logistics and the processing and the access. That's as big of a hurdle as it is to having more cows on the land in regenerative fashion. Many farmers we know would love to just raise their beef on grass, but they really don't have another choice if they're going to maintain their lifestyle and the occupation that they love and what they know how to do, because they need the system in place to then sell their beef into. And so it is just such a large system. The agro-industrial system is supporting it's so structured that it's hard to break out of it. Mm-hmm. And you're swimming upstream at every move to find a processor, to get your processing dates in advance, to sort of forecast what you think your sales are going to be. And you're really putting your stretch as a rancher who's also marketing their own products. You're really stretching your neck out and saying, I think that I'm going to be able to sell this much, and I want to grow a little bit, and I'm going to anticipate these sales are going to happen. And you've got to get those butcher dates in a year in advance. And that's just not feasible for a family ranch who has kids to feed, who has to know that a paycheck is coming. So It's as much about restructuring the system and the processing and moving animals around the country as it is can the land base support that cows the way we're doing it?
What would it take to do that? Like just a lot of people like yourself that want to really badly, and then I mean, I don't know what it would take other than that, because like the place that you painted, this other rancher that would like to do it, but there's just no possible way they're going to break out of this system. It seems like the only way forward, like you described, is just to have a lot more people that are committed to 240 acres or 200 acres or something like that to start doing this all over the place.
Right. And committed to having the smaller scale, mid scale USDA plants. You know, it takes a certain size for a processing plant to be economically feasible. And we've seen people grow into that and it's painful. It's like growth is painful. And we see the opposite of that, where it's a barrier to entry. Like, we don't want your cow herd that's less than a semi load at a time. So it takes a commitment to seeing that the system can be in place. How are we going to get there? And
the challenge is for you to be able to be a USDA processor yourself would be even more so.
Well, the ante on that's several million, and that's a whole nother business of staffing that. I mean, that's a full-time business. Yeah. There are big operations that do that, and the big people are all that way. I mean, but it's, a feedlot with 500,000 cows and their own USDA plant that are slaughtering 5,000 cows a day. That's with the railroad right there. That's right. Pretty easy for Costco and Walmart to buy from.
Right.
It's like the system's really set up, and it does feed a lot of people a lot of food. I mean, in many ways, it contributes a lot to America getting
fed on a day-to-day basis.
There is a better way for higher quality product.
It's definitely a matter of creating the demand. The demand's got to be there for anybody to take the risk to make the effort.
That's cool. Well, I think it's really cool. And I encourage people to check out what you're doing. Tell them how they can find you again.
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is ramsteadranch.com, and you can just log in, and from there you can, you can see the ranch, you can place orders online. We ship from the farm every week. And we did talk a little bit about the bulk buying, the quarter beef and half beef, but we sell meat by individual packages. And we also just launched our subscribe and save program. So people can subscribe to save money and choose from a free item and get smaller portions, smaller quantities for apartment sized refrigerator freezers. You don't have to buy a half a beef at a time. And you can follow along. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We have a growing YouTube channel, and the handle's pretty simple every time. It's ramsteadranch.com.
All right.
We do have a slight minimum order for shipping. What is it?
It depends on the zone. So it's going to be anywhere from $99 to $159 for a minimum.
We need some bulk to.
Sure.
One pound of hamburger doesn't ship to the other to Florida very well.
Yeah.
So we need a little bit of volume to make everything work. So that's what the minimum's about, just getting enough mass to make the shipping work.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. Well, good luck with the stretching as well. Have you hit any of the standards on the can either of you get any of the standards? I can get a few.
The arms behind me, I can, and touching my palms straight behind me, I can get that.
Wow.
I'm so far from there on that one. That's my worst stretch, but I did just make it back all the way back, leaning with the quad stretch.
Yes.
I've been propping myself up on a chair, and I missed the chair this week, and I'm like, look, I can do it.
There you go. That's how it has to happen.
By accident.
I was using a medicine ball, and then one day I just decided I'm just going for it, and I did it.
Ta-da!
yeah, but boy, do I feel better when I do all that. It just makes
that's a big difference.
Such a big difference. Well, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. I learned a ton. I really did, and I was hoping that I would about all the labels and the different terms and everything, but also just about how you're managing your land. It's really cool, and I've always liked that with what I've read about Joel Salatin and others, and it's just really cool to be able to talk to you and understand exactly what you're doing.
Well, you should come see it. It's you'll have a whole nother level of appreciation with those. Watch the cows just mow it down and move on, and it's amazing.
I will. You probably have some good fishing out there somewhere too. I'll have to come out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Love to see you up here. We'll have some fun.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks so much, and we'll be back with another awesome guest next week. So see you then.